What's going on, everybody? Welcome back for the 30th episode of the Refreshing the Feed podcast. My name is Matt, his name's Daniel, and we're refreshing your feed so you don't have to.
John Cena. Matthew Torino's a teleporter.
There's the berries, not people.
Let's go!
Okay, Daniel. It's been a while since we talked last.
For sure.
On your podcast, the Corner Talks podcast. Give a shout out, let people know where they can reach you on Instagram, social media, things like that.
Yeah, so my name is Daniel Calderone. You can reach me at my Instagram. It's at d.calderone. And my podcast is called Corner Talks. And it's been a lot of fun, quite a journey, bringing on filmmakers, creatives like yourself, entrepreneurs. It's a pleasure, man, to be on this podcast because I know what a grind it is to really, bring a lot of guests on. And this is the first time, by the way, I should mention, I'm being interviewed and doing a podcast in person because when I started my podcast,
Zoom, right?
It was through Zoom. So it's kind of surreal to me actually right now.
Yeah, I want to know. So, like you said, it's all been through Zoom this entire time, right? Since you started. It's unfortunate, but just the way it's got to be, right?
For sure.
So, do you think it'd have a much bigger impact if you were in person for all of your interviews? Obviously, it's your face to face. That's not the given, right? But do you think it'd be sort of like you'd look at it differently if it wasn't behind the screen? Like for all your interviews so far?
Not necessarily. I was kind of thinking about this recently. I was talking about it actually on a podcast I did this morning, and to my guest, I wouldn't have got him on or other guests if it wasn't for Zoom. That platform was a savior in a way because, I'm 26. A lot of people my age, they're working full time. They got girlfriends. They got a lot of stuff going on in their lives. But it's also inconvenient, come all the way to my house. I don't have a studio set up, right? Yeah. So a lot of the guests I've been fortunate to get because of that convenience. On top of that, a lot of the guests I reach out to don't live in Toronto.
Yeah, exactly.
I live in Cleveland, Ohio, Los Angeles, right? So I'm able to expand my list, right, on how I interview. But just having this experience right now, it's a whole different dynamic. It's very personal. Like I'm giving you eye contact. I see you clear, right? More than 4K probably, whatever the human eye can detect. So it's actually amazing. It's quite a different experience. I would prefer it personal, like the face-to-face, because it's just a different experience. I've been told that, right? But yeah, I've been so comfortable with the Zoom platform, so I can't really have any. I don't have any complaints.
It like you said, it broadens your scope of who you can invite on, right? I think in a way it benefits you, but in a way it's kind of like a little bit draws away from the conversation. But at the same time, like you said, like Cleveland, LA, and things like that, when people hear, okay, let's do a Zoom call, it's in the comfort of their home. It's a hop on for 20 minutes. They're more likely to say, like you said, like obviously, I'll come on. Just for the 30-minute interview or hour interview, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, 100%. 90% of my guests, man, would probably not be on my podcast because I just know their schedule. I know how they are. And it's not their fault, really, right? It's just the way it is.
A lot of people are busy.
A lot of people are just busy, man. And even what's funny, the people you do see I get on, that's like 2 weeks in advance, a month advance, me planning it. Yeah, exactly. Just for a Zoom call, an hour, right? People have their own lives, but I'm grateful for each one of them. Yeah. A lot of experiences and a lot of memories, really. Yeah.
I wanted to get into for people that don't know you, I know some of I follow you on Instagram, all social media platforms and stuff like that. Give me a sort of like a rundown of what are the biggest projects you've worked on. I know the short film and things like that. Sort of like what do you think of your highest achievements? Not so much like how much success they've had, but sort of your biggest achievement, like personal achievements.
Yeah, for sure. Last year, probably my biggest achievement so far was my directorial debut, I should say, as a short film. I used to do short films, but they were very abstract. It was more experimental, telling the story through visuals and music. But I never had something with a script. I never had something with actors and dialogue and an assistant director, makeup art. I never dealt with an actual team myself. I always shadowed, right? I was always acting as a production assistant. And, I was 25 at the time, and eventually people talk in the industry and they say, your time needs to come. You need to start, if you want to be a director, you have to start putting stuff out there, right? And I was fortunate enough to have this two gentlemen. Their name is Kosa Caraway and Danny Mariathis. They came to me with a project because they saw my style, how I shot films. And it's a short film called Cracked about exploring mental health of young men. You can find it in my Instagram bio if you check it out. And basically, the reason why I call it one of my highest achievements if not the highest achievement, is that was my first time that I could sink my teeth into the directing role.
Yeah.
That was the first time that I can actually deal with actors, and really, for the most part, Matt, like, confirm to myself if filmmaking was for me, right?
Yeah.
Because up until that time, right, I'm making all these experimental short film, abstract films, but I was never really, exploring that artistic avenue, right? Like the Quentin Tarantino, I discuss him all the time, or Martin Scorsese, like those guys eventually worked with actors, worked with scripts. But I have to say, other than Cracked, my biggest achievement, another big achievement for me from a different angle, was a film called Beautiful. It's with Robert De Niro. Check him out.
Yeah,
great guy. Shout out. Yeah. He helped me kill it. Great soccer player. Comes from a family of soccer players. We've been planning that before the pandemic, when I shot the first short film with my friend. And that first short film was, again, very abstract. There was no dialogue. It was just visuals telling the story. But I wanted to change it up and do something different. And with this film, Beautiful, with Robert De Niro, that was another big achievement, because that was the first time I was actually getting recognition from the industry. So what I mean by that is film festivals were coming to me this time instead of me going to them. And they would send me emails. They would send me promotional incentives, discount codes to get me to get me involved, to get me to submit to these festivals. And if you've been tracking, or if you follow me already on Instagram, you see that I post a lot about it's doing like a world tour. It really is. It's doing like all these different countries. And again, it doesn't always have to be the Toronto International Film Festival or the Cannes Film Festival. What it is that you build your reputation, you build your portfolio, and you also build your exposure, right? To people, because people have reached out, whether it's potential clients, whether it's people that want to collaborate, because of those things, right? Yeah. And I've developed a lot of projects because of it. So yeah, those two films for sure.
Yeah, I like you were mentioning, sort of like you began with like the experimental abstract sort of filming. Would you say after you really, like you said, sunk your teeth into that project and really became like part of the directorial role, would you think like there's a massive jump between what you were before and then that role and that like status, or do you think it was just like more responsibility, or what sort of makes that jump so like important and distinctive?
Like you're talking about like the progression, like I notice any progression. Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up. A lot of people in this industry, or especially the arts, right? And even for you, if you do a podcast, you would know yourself if it's worthy of your time, if you see that you're making that progression. It doesn't have to be the next day. It's more like a yearly thing, I would consider it. And definitely, man, I've noticed a personal progression, even professionally. Like people have told me that they've seen it. And if you've been following my work back in 2016, you could see, even on my YouTube channel, you could see my videos kind of slowly get better and better. Yeah,
when you say that, like what, like just film techniques, or like
I would say I would say a variety of things: film techniques, writing, color correction, editing as well. The one thing, a big thing I would mention again is taking a script and taking it to the screen, right? Yeah. Like that's a big progression. I used to own a DSLR camera. It was a Canon, beautiful T5i, Rebel T5i, beautiful job, but it wasn't doing it for me. Yeah. And I needed to invest in an A7 III Sony, or I decided to. Yeah. That's a mirrorless camera, and it's exceptional. It does the job for me, and I've been using it since 2018. I started my production company, 94 Productions, with that camera. So it's me and that little gadget figuring it out. But the important thing is that you see progression, and that's probably what I've seen in my work, is more so how it looks on camera. That was a big thing for me. Yeah. How I piece it together, the editing, and that it's cohesive, that there's a story being told. That's something that I'm always kind of after. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that is extremely important. But you've been through obviously the couple stages that we just talked about. I want to know that now that you're fairly obviously new in the directing world and film world. For those that have been in the film world, like you listed some examples before, director like Scorsese and all those guys, big directors, Quentin Tarantino. Do you think that the development into the new media and the way film is being distributed through all these different mediums and platforms is beneficial or negative to the film world? And sort of what your take on it is, because now that you're in this style of watching, and that isn't necessarily directed only in cinemas, right? It's not just movie theaters anymore. It's all over online and Netflix and all the different platforms. I wonder if you think it's beneficial or kind of takes away from the entire experience of just being in the film and being fully immersed in what you're watching.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, man. And it's something that I've been thinking about a lot, especially because of the pandemic, with the circumstances of, movie theaters being closed for those apparent reasons. It's a tricky subject because I grew up since I was a little boy with film, right? And all I know, I didn't know Netflix, I didn't know YouTube, any other platform to watch movies. All I knew was the movie theaters.
Yeah.
And I still to this day want to see one of my films in a movie theater with that audience experience. I think it's a completely different way of movie going. But at the same time, it's highly beneficial what's happening. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Streaming services, the variety of, and not only Netflix. It used to be just Netflix in the game. Now you got Amazon Prime. Now you got Hulu. You got Apple TV. I was talking to a friend in LA. He's a director as well. He sold one of his projects to Amazon Prime. Like, there's different avenues now. You don't have to go to the big five anymore, right? The big studios. And as much as I still want that experience to have my film showcased in a movie theater, I have to also adapt to the times, right?
Yeah.
And give what the market allows me, right? It's not, I'm going to see how far I go with it, right? I don't think movie theaters will go away forever.
I don't think so
if
either.
not at all, because people forget it's a social experience. Blockbuster was more of a retail store.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That could easily be replaced. Movie theaters it's almost like saying restaurants are closed because you could send food to the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Eats, right? Restaurants will never be closed. There's always dates. There's always, want to hang out with friends. And people, let's be honest, can afford a 100-inch TV.
Yeah.
Right? They want to, be enthralled. They want to be immersed into an experience. The amazing surround sound. Up until now, we just had our basement renovated. Now I have a 75-inch. I got a soundbar, but up until now, right?
You don't have it.
I didn't have that, right? I had like a default speaker for my TV, whatever, right? But what I'm saying is that the experience, like watching a movie like Django Unchained, one of my favorite movies. That's what pulled me into Tarantino's world. Watch that in the theater compared to on TV.
Yeah, completely different.
Completely different. With the sound, the music, amazing, man, amazing.
Yeah, but I do think, like you said, I do think it's like super beneficial that we're going down that path.
Yeah.
Just because it opens up such a crazy world of exposure to films in general and also TV shows, just because they're at like everyone's fingertips. Yeah. Right. So it just allows everybody to have all that experience. But for your sake, so in the future, I do believe that eventually we'll start only catering to streaming platforms, not sort of that the actual cinema is the priority. Only because like those streaming platforms are going to get so much more attention.
Of course.
That you're going to have to focus on, okay, it's going to be available in 4K with subtitles and things like that, rather than what's it going to look like in the movie theater, right? Like you mentioned a couple. Like Tarantino, I want to know what are your like favorite films first of all, and let's say top 3.
Yeah.
And your favorite directors. Obviously, they're your favorite for a reason. They have some inspiration for you. Yeah. And I kind of want to know what that is. Yeah,
for sure, man. Interesting. I've never been actually asked this question, or when I do, I try to avoid it because I don't really have a favorite. Really? But I can give you a top 3. Well, I have more like a top 10, 15, but I can give you a top 3 for sure. So I'll go in order and I'll explain each one. So Star Wars, it's not any particular film, but if I have to pick out of the whole saga, it's Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
A lot of people, do have, trust me, I know that there's problems with it. I know it's not a perfect film, but for me, it's ingrained in my memory. I watched it when I was 10 years old in the movie theater. Again, another movie theater experience that would stay with you. And seeing Anakin Skywalker turn to the dark side, like 10 years old, you know what I mean? Like, I still think there's a beautiful story there, and a lot of people should rewatch it and just see what George Lucas was trying to do. And I enjoy that. I enjoy those tragedies, right? So that's the movie that made me fall in love with Star Wars. I love the mythology. I love the characters. I love all the basically story elements that are put into there, right? Like the good versus evil, the rogue, and the smuggler and all that stuff. So I really enjoyed those films. If you see my drawings as well, if you follow my Instagram, I'm a huge fan, right? I express it that way. Star Wars for sure is up there. Next, I'll say Goodfellas. Goodfellas for me is because, again, I was introduced to it probably when I was like 10, 11, 12. And I think what pulled me in first was the relatability. My family's not in the mafia, but I am Sicilian,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you know, I have an Italian background, and it for some reason just felt familiar watching
Yeah.
it. I felt it was done so authentically.
Yeah.
And obviously Martin Scorsese, genius that did it, but you know, he's American Italian, and he did it justice, right?
Yeah.
But I also love the themes that go on. I love that they humanized these villains, these characters,
Yeah.
right? That aren't supposed to be humanized, right? They're supposed to be seen as bad men.
Yeah.
But he made you like them until the end. And he did that again with Wolf of Wall Street. You know,
Yeah, another great movie.
great
yeah.
directing. And again, you'll notice a pattern when I mention like my favorite films is that even with Django Unchained is the next film I probably would have to say between that and Pulp Fiction is I enjoy these films because and that's something that I want to take with my style. They're things that you don't expect. Like
Yeah.
you're put in situations like there's dark tones, there's characters that you don't want to root for, but you have to. There's a lot of tragedy. There's things that you know are flipped on its head. So yeah, Goodfellas did it for me that way. A big thing, it also taught me the importance of score and the
Yeah.
power of it. In that movie, it's beautiful. It's become so synonymous, actually, when I listen to a song. I was listening to one of them on the radio, and I said, this is a scene in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
And then there's like, no,
It's
this is a classic song. No, this is a scene in Goodfellas. Like, I
Yeah.
don't, when I hear music, I associate it with a scene in a movie.
Scenes,
I
yeah.
don't listen to it just on its own. I think they were trying to use Stuck in the Middle with You from Reservoir Dogs, you know, like bank commercial.
Okay.
And I was dying. I was laughing my head off. I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't put this in.
That's awesome.
You don't put this. Like, if I was editing that like, for a corporate video, I would actually refuse to put that in. Like,
Yeah.
it's so synonymous because
Yeah.
it did its job, right? It stays with you. So yeah, I already mentioned it. Pulp Fiction, Django Unchained, for sure. Top movies for me. Pulp Fiction, I want to just mention, is because the dialogue. That's
great,
what taught.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's what taught me dialogue. That's what taught me writing. That's what taught me how to captivate the audience's attention. Right.
Yeah.
I never knew that till then. I thought it was just, you know, exposition, action, you know, seeing people
Yeah.
talking, but I didn't know there was like an art to it, a science at really how they talk to one another.
Yeah.
So Pulp Fiction for me, and it comes out, I'm a little bit biased, came out in 1994. That's the year I was born.
Yeah.
That's the year that Tarantino made it with Pulp Fiction, and
That's
that's why
awesome.
I named my production company 94 Productions.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah.
So it all coincides.
Another common thing I noticed in all those films is a lot of great storytelling
Yeah.
in each one. Like you said, like you mentioned before, and I know you're a big fan of Tarantino, obviously, and Scorsese, two of your biggest inspirations. Moving on to 94 Productions. So you started, obviously, how long ago? How long has it been? Over.
Yeah, so it's been the exact date I started was January 2020.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, literally probably the 3rd, like 2 days after New Year's. And yeah, the story goes is I started the company and then the pandemic hit. You know what I mean? Like just
It's rough.
the rest is history kind of thing, right? But yeah, it was just something I kind of always wanted to pursue, right? I've always imagined with my films, like Tarantino, his production company is called A Band Apart,
Yeah.
right? So I always imagined before my film there would be like something that would be branded or trademarked from me, right?
Yeah.
And then like an outlet. And it's a perfect time to create a production company because you learn that it's not just about making films. You could do a variety of things with it.
Yeah.
You could do
Advertising,
videography,
marketing, yeah.
exactly. And I studied marketing at Ryerson, so I kind of merged the two and said, you know, this is what I want to be doing for the next 5 years. Let me see where it goes.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, you started like January 2020.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the pandemic definitely had a big factor of that.
Yeah.
I want to know what you do and what your process is. You do have corner talks. You do have all the things you're doing on the side, and I see the merch, the 94 Productions
Thank you.
merch.
Yeah,
looks
thank you.
great.
Thank you.
And I kind of want to know what how do you sort of juggle? I have a lot of things also going on. Like a lot of people do, right? And
Of course.
they have their own methodology of trying to like make sure they're doing this on time and make sure like prioritizing this between school and work and everything else. I want to know what your sort of like tier of what is most important to you and sort of how you juggle everything, whether it's a calendar or things like that, just to give some advice to people out there that are also like trying to juggle a lot of things at once, even like myself, right?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, full disclosure, I should mention, I'm kind of giving myself a year or two to really like tackle this, passion of mine, this dream of mine, because I've always tried to do both. I've tried to work like yourself. You said you work Chipotle or you work another job, right? And you try to do both. For me, it's more like I want to see where I can go with this path by focusing all my effort and energy. So back to your question with the pandemic, it was rough. When the first few
Yeah.
months happened, I was like completely lost. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do first because I said to myself, I didn't know what it was like to not work steady, like to
Yeah.
have something keep me busy. But it was the first time I realized this is what they mean by an entrepreneur. This is what they mean by freelancer is you make your own time, you make your own schedule.
Yeah.
And I really had to go like bare bones. I really had to like figure it out for myself, like work from the ground up. And I'll be honest, at first I didn't have a schedule. I didn't have like a calendar. I would just keep everything. I have a pretty good memory. My
Yeah,
friends.
I feel I'm the same way.
Yeah.
In a way, like, right, like I feel people do like always have reminders and things like that. I think it kind of just like tears
Right?
away your mind, right? Like you sort of like lose your memory when you do
Yeah.
stuff like that. I don't know why.
Like my friends and I, we joke around because I'll remember things from the past, like childhood. or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
We make up jokes and they're like, "How do you remember that?" And I'm like, "Elephant memory." And I don't know what it is. I just remember. I have a sharp memory. So, but I can't rely on it, and thank God, because as I progress in this career, things pick up. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what I'm saying is around the summertime, that's when I said, okay, let me get myself a calendar. And that's what it is, man. It's all about jotting down what you want to do for the day. And it's not always work-related tasks. There could be personal tasks, right? Like
Yeah.
exercise, top of the list, first thing in the morning. You know, do an ab workout, a home
Yeah.
workout, you walk around the neighborhood, come home, right? You know, even if it's like doing things around the house kind of thing, right? Like cleaning up your room, just things that'll organize, structure your day. Right.
Yeah.
That's what kind of balances you, because what it is you start to get into a workflow, right?
Yeah.
Once you start doing things. So then I do that. And then, and then obviously I put my work related tasks and, you know, I clarify that. But I should mention, I check mark what I've completed with a red marker, just like as a dopamine. hit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know I did it. But at the same time, I think it's very important, and I've heard this a lot on YouTube, like those self-help videos. You should always, the night before, make a list of what you want to do tomorrow. So you're giving
Yeah.
yourself a visualization.
Yeah, I've heard
or even
some
for
of
the
them.
week, right?
Yeah.
And then, you just chip away every day. So that's kind of what kept me organized. I'm very visual. So that's why, again, I have a calendar. I have a big calendar on my desk. And I just write down, you know, Matt's
Yeah.
podcast at 7, like in the square. So I don't forget. And also that I look forward to it. It's kind of like a visualization, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big problem for me. Only because, like, when I consider myself a pretty hard worker.
Right.
And I have my coworkers at work that can justify that, and people I know. It's just that, like, sometimes, and although a lot of people are the same, we were talking about it before. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you get caught on TikTok, or you get caught like just procrastinating, stuff like that. But I feel like my biggest like a positive to take away from my sort of like work ethic is that, like, once I start, like, there's no stopping
Right.
until because I can start at like 8 o'clock. Let's say if I'm doing something, editing something, working on something, and I'll finish. If it takes me till 4 a.m, it takes me till 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Right. I just think that there's that. But I feel like if I did explore that life of a structured style of living where I actually take the time and plan out what I need to do,
Yeah.
I feel like it would have less stress on me, less stress on my mind, and, like, in general, just less stress it would create. Only because, like, you're taking that time and you realize, okay, 9 o'clock is this, and then I have time to break. You know what I mean? It's not always rush.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel that when I work under pressure, not pressured like that.
Oh, you
crunching
give yourself
to
a deadline.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
when I get started and I'm like, I'm not getting up until I finish this.
Yeah.
I feel like it just comes out so much better for me. That's just a style
Yeah.
of way that I like doing it. But a lot of people have to, like, I'm only gonna do this for an hour and then I'll come back to it. And I've tried that recently actually. It's extremely, like, relaxing, and it does take up a lot of time in a way. Just because, like, you're going back to it, and let's say it's a bunch of files you got to reopen and stuff like that, but it does relieve a lot of stress. I did that with a couple assignments for school and things like that. It just gets things done a lot easier.
Yeah.
So you said you do have a structured style of living, right?
Yeah.
Moving forward, with a lot on your plate, like you were saying, you obviously want to work with a team,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like when you're working with a team, it just sort of turns into a whole like completely different dynamic.
Yeah.
Like, I've worked with people here on the podcast, and I've worked with people obviously at my actual job, like my where I work now, and I just feel like when there's that sense of, like, relying on someone to do something else.
Yeah.
let's say, because you and I were perfectionists in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So even relying on someone to do something else, it's not so much like I have to always check over you, but I want to know what you think of, not collaboration, but working to like make this culminative project, right? Like,
what's it like working with
beneficial?
a team?
Is it beneficial, or does it take away from sort of your creative abilities?
Yeah, it was to be honest, it was a huge learning curve when I first worked with a team. That cracked film, for example, I was mentioning, because I was so used to, for the longest time, being, you know, myself, like just the one man team, like director, writer, editor, all those things. And I still took on those roles. The difference is that it wasn't solely my story, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't my project. They came to me, right? Like how I mentioned it before. And you have to be open-minded. You have to be accepting of that. And obviously, you know, I'm a storyteller, right? So like, and I'm very creative, and I want to take control, and I want the project to look a certain way. I have a vision, right? But these experiences working with a team benefit you or anyone, because it teaches you. Because eventually, you're gonna require a team. Like the level of filmmaking that I want to do, right? If I want to be like a Tarantino, I have to work with hundreds and hundreds of people. I have to know how they report to me, how I report to them. I have to know how to have that exchange. And these experiences, I kind of just tell myself, like, I'm grateful for the experience, like I'm grateful for the project. But you have to kind of get to a point when you're accepting that when you're working collaboratively, people are always going to have an opinion. Yeah. Whether they're in the industry or not, especially because it's creative, everyone wants to put in their opinion. And it's kind of your job, right? If you're really convinced with in your ideas, you have that conviction, what I mean, it's your job to kind of tell them, hey, this is how you do it. This is how it's done. Or I'd recommend doing it like this. A big thing for me, I was listening to Quentin Tarantino on the Joe Rogan podcast. And again, another reason why I love him is, you know, very similar how he thinks is he goes, you know, anytime someone gives me feedback or criticism and they just give it to me like without any kind of explanation, they're just saying, oh, that's crap, or that was bullshit, or whatever. I don't listen to, because I can't work with that. But if you have a conversation with me, I might consider it. I might say, hey, you know what? And that's the same thing with myself, and that's the same thing when I'm talking to another person on set. Is if I'm talking to them, I have to give them, you know, an intelligible, articulate answer, right? Or feedback in order for them to make an improvement, and vice versa, right? So all these, what I'm trying to say here is that like working with a team just kind of teaches you, right? Like how to converse with one another and how to reach a common goal. Because that's the biggest challenge, man, I'll be honest, is, you know, I got the 94 collection you mentioned, like the clothing line. Now that things are getting, you know, hopefully better, and they'll stay better. I, you know, plan to launch like this huge marketing campaign where I do dance videos, and I got a lot of people like, you know, reaching out to help me out. So I'm fortunate with that, but it's still a collaborative effort. They have to trust me, and I have to trust them. And again, I don't dance very well. If you talk to my sister, I don't dance for shit, right? But at the same time, so I have to kind of swallow my pride and say, you know, eventually I got to work with, you know, dancers, and I got to, you know, be patient with them. They got to be patient with me. We got to have that understanding. So for sure.
I think it does. I think you're right. I think you do like end up learning a lot from collaboration, right? And working with a team. Just like, off the top of your head, I just wanted to know sort of what type of advice, if you were to speak to up-and-coming content creators, you've been doing it for a while now, between the Corner Talks podcast, between your short films, between Cracked and everything else, sort of like up-and-coming content creators, film students, podcasters, things like that. I want to know what sort of advice, because I've been asked this before on another interview, right. And I've had a sort of, it kind of stumped me when I first heard it. Right. I just want to know what sort of advice would you give to those creatives that are sort of coming up. If they had sort of the same vision as you, they want to be directors, they want to be professional podcasters or whatever, right? What sort of thing would you tell them?
I'm gonna tell them what you know, my heroes kind of told me is you got to start. You got to just start. And what I mean by that is, for instance, director, right? I used to write when I still write, but I'm saying is when I wanted to pursue this passion, first thing I did was start writing feature-length screenplays, which I still have at home. I wrote about 4 or 5 over the course of the last, 10 years. And they're considered passion projects when I'm more established, when I have the money, the resources to do them. But what I'm saying is that instead of keeping them, hidden in a box, right, and saying one day they're going to be made, I realized if I want to be a director, I got to start expanding my contacts. I got to start networking, and I got to be familiar with the camera, have that confidence. So what do? I get myself a camera. I start shooting. First film I shot was myself. Put it on a tripod, like what you have here set up. Went in front of the camera, got all the footage, and used the music to tell the story.
Yeah.
Then I ended up getting someone else, like a good friend of mine. Then I ended up doing another person. And then it got me here today, which I still have a lot more work to do. But you see the progression in that it starts off with just yourself making content, picking up a camera, becoming the director. And then it ends with, you creating a team around you, creating a network around you that can realize bigger visions for yourself. So if anyone, same thing with the podcast. For the longest time, I heard people, wanting to get into podcasting, cousins, friends, people, whatever, right? And again, everyone's busy, everyone has their own lives, and I know how it is. But if you want to do it, you'll find a way, right? Yeah. And everyone was making the excuse of the pandemic, rightfully so, right? Yeah. Like this setup right here, if we were under lockdown, I don't know if I'd be showing up.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, you had a vision and you executed and you committed to it, and that's commendable, man, right?
Appreciate it.
So for myself, what I'm saying with the podcast, it's like, Zoom. I started doing my research. I said, okay, how can I do it where people don't have to show up because I don't have the studio space and I don't feel comfortable, right? And then I discovered Zoom, right? Like I said, I got myself a mic and I hooked it up. So what I'm saying is if there's a will, there's a way, right? And for anyone that's, trying to become a podcaster or a filmmaker, you got to just get your hands dirty. You got to throw yourself in the ring and you got to fall. Because I've fallen so many times.
Yeah.
I've been ridiculed in the sense that, not ridiculed like, embarrassed of or humiliated. It's more about you take pride in your work.
Yeah.
And you put it out there.
And if you don't see instant results, it's sort of like this demoralizing feeling, right?
Exactly. And what I'm saying, but even family or friends, right?
Yeah.
Why'd you post that? Or I look like this in this picture. Like people will comment always. And of course it's going to hurt you. Of course you're going to be affected if you're that attached to your work. But I'm the kind of person, man, where it's I run. If I fall, then I get back up.
Yeah.
I want to learn from my own mistakes. And anyone that's, pursuing the arts needs to have that tenacity.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not about thinking, it's about doing. And I'm still guilty of it. I still think sometimes. I definitely catch myself overthinking. But there comes a point when you have to put it into action.
Yeah. I do think that there's a lot of a wide scope of like creativity where you explore when you're talking about content creating and things like that. You have the ability to explore so much. You can be as creative as you want, depending on your type of medium, right? I know you listen to a lot or you watch a lot of Gary Vee.
Yeah.
I also watch a lot of Gary Vee as of recently. He looks at it as more of a business perspective in most of the things I've seen. Mm-hmm. Some of the YouTube videos and some other things that he's posted. But you're about like the 100 pieces of content and things like that, right? I know you're a big supporter of that. I just think that when speaking from a sort of business perspective, I had this conversation with Adam on my last episode. It's sort of, when you look at it and like the views aren't there or the likes aren't there, I think the biggest thing when I was asked that question of what advice I would give, now being in this position, I think just being discouraged is your own biggest enemy. I think that like once you see, let's say like a video gets like a terrible one of your videos or whatever gets like no views or like whatever, like 3 views or whatever it is, right? So you see stuff like that or like no likes, and like when you're first starting off, especially I was fortunate enough to have the other podcast and then transfer the followers over and just rebrand and things like that, right? So I had for this one I had it already.
You already built the foundation, right?
For this one. But like starting off it's extremely discouraging, right? Like you get that support initially and it's always like, oh yeah, good for you, go ahead, right?
Yeah.
And then where the following stops, where the people stop listening or viewing or paying or buying, subscribing and things like that, is where you're generally supposed to fall off. That's the way I look at it, right? I think of it as the people that have the same, like the people that are paying attention are supposed to be that like you, like until when they stop, you're technically supposed to stop paying attention too, right? When you're getting 2 views and things like that, it's kind of saying like, oh, now it's time for you to stop because people don't care, right? But I think that when you're able to push through that now I'm doing this for me, right? Like I'm not doing this to please everyone. I'm doing this because I want to create content and I want to eventually progress the brand and progress the podcast or the film, right? I think it just works in that way. It is a grind, and if you don't see immediate results, it's obviously discouraging.
But anytime I just want to interject here. Anytime you like have those thoughts, what I've taught myself and what this pandemic has proven, because I've been doing this content creation consistently, right, for the past year and a half. You never know who's watching. 2 views, who knows what those 2 views are, and sometimes the algorithm doesn't pick up who's watching, and it's proven so many times in my situation. Like the guest I had this morning, right? He doesn't like my stuff, doesn't comment, doesn't DM me, whatever. Yeah. But he's kept me in mind, and he said, like, I see your progress, I see, how far you've come as a filmmaker. We should connect, we should collaborate, whatever have you. And I'm like blown away, like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And what I'm saying is that if you give into that theory, right, what you were saying by the quantitative, no likes and no views, of course it's going to be discouraging. Of course you're not going to want to do it, right? I'm a big, I'm fascinated with this social media world because I sometimes, drift off and I'll see other people's pages, or I'll see on the explore page, people getting comments. And you'll notice what I'm saying is a pattern. You'll notice when you stop progressing as a person, when you just have the same people commenting on your videos, when you have the same people liking your stuff. For yourself or for myself, if I'm always having my high school friends, if I'm always having, my neighbors, my mom, messaging, oh, great video, then I become stagnant. I'm not expanding my market, right? But if you start getting people in a podcasting field, right? People from Los Angeles, people from the States, right? Saying great work, this is fire, this is dope. Then you start to say, okay, now I have something. Yeah. Right? And soon what I'm trying to get at is our generations, right? Gen Z, millennial, we get caught up in that. We think, oh, that person has more likes, that person has more comments. Yeah. Look where it's coming from. Yeah, exactly. Take a firm, really pay close attention. It's always the same group of people. It's always their best friends or close friends, whatever. Yeah. And if they are pursuing the arts, right? Pay close attention and see, are they advancing? Are they expanding their market? Are there people outside of their group, right? Yeah. Outside of the city, discovering their work. That's how I measure my progress as a person.
I think you kind of touched upon it. I think recognition goes a lot further than interaction.
Recognition in the right places, man. Yeah. Right? Like I just said. Yeah. It's always nice. I don't want to, crap on anyone. Like, I love it when my friends support me. But at the same time, right, my friends aren't my closest friends.
Yeah, they're not going to further.
But they're not in the film industry, right?
Exactly.
They're just, they like it.
Because we're friends. Yeah.
But like I said, you got a director from LA, you got a director from Ohio, you got a director from Atlanta. I've had these situations that happen to me, actually. Yeah. Where they'll DM me and they'll say, this is great, this is amazing, keep going, whatever. That's when I'm trying to get at, is you start to say to yourself, okay, I have something going for myself, right? Yeah. That's the recognition you would want. That's the recognition you need.
Just to wrap up, I think that's it for today. That was great.
Yeah, great.
Nothing really to further there, but I do agree. In many different senses. I just think that, like we were saying before, it's so difficult not difficult, sorry. It's just when you're keeping up with everything and you're trying to get sort of like this brand for yourself down, for myself down. It's just great to see the progress throughout all of it and where you develop from beginning to now, and just to take a look back. Even just this thing, I check out the first episode and I say, okay, wow, I was here before, now I'm here, right? And you just see the progress, and it just looks great. Like, it looks for yourself.
Exactly, yeah. And even I should commend you on your progress, right? Like the fact that
I appreciate it.
You said you started an original podcast, right? And I think I've had some familiarity, or I looked it up. Yeah. But I don't remember seeing any of this, like the setup and like even the editing, right? Like I noticed you improved on the intro. You did some kind of fast, MTV kind of style. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. All right, I think that's it for us today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Again, thank you for coming. This was great.
Yeah, of course.
Let the people know where they can reach you on Instagram, social media again, one more time.
Yeah, for sure. So Instagram, it's at d.calderone. Corner Talks Podcast. Check it out. Reach out to me if you want to become a guest.
Okay, that's it for us. If you're watching this, make sure to hit the links in the description. Our the Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram is down below. If you're listening to this, check out the podcast in full video on YouTube. That's it for us today. Again, Thank you for coming. We refreshed your feet so you didn't have to. That was Daniel Calderone. Peace out.
Thanks, everyone.